Hello, welcome to Seagulls Social, Season 3, Episode 27.
Somber as fuck that was.
It's so deflating. I did it on purpose, but I tell you what, it's really deflating. Like, yeah, to go to Sellers yesterday, my voice is still a little bit destroyed because you just don't want to lose or draw your rival games.
Felt
but
like
we have
a loss,
again.
innit?
And it does feel like a loss, mate, to be fair. Anyway, before we get into the game, obviously, we are joined with Ben, but not Maz, because Maz
has had a haircut.
But we have got Adam from Seagulls Central. So, Adam, mate, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm annoyed. I went to bed annoyed. I've woken up really just annoyed, and like it's annoying because I'm trying to say it in the context of like times are good and we should be happy, but like it is annoying.
Yeah,
that's so frustrating.
Yeah, Ben.
And yes, it was just miserable. I feel miserable as well. Woke up 10 minutes ago. I've had a coffee, so hopefully I'll perk up later in the episode. I was just telling Adam off there. I was like, normally this is a well-oiled machine, but it's not today. It's definitely not. But I think we can get away with it because it was a horrendous result. So
it's one of those where you wake up on a Sunday after a pretty rubbish result. Like, I know we got a point, but a draw basically doesn't matter in a rival game in my books. It's a cup final. You want to win. And if you lose, you lose, and you get over it probably a bit quicker than a draw where they just didn't even have a kick in the game, to be honest. I mean, it was a complete mismatch between two football sides. Even Palace fans were agreeing, saying this was complete daylight robbery. All Palace fans that I know personally were like, how on earth this ended as a draw is beyond me. But before we get into the goal
result, so bright. we thought we were a different team in the build up. We were like, we're a different team now. We'll handle it fine. But no, it's the same classic Brighton.
Yeah. What did you guys think? Because I went into it thinking like I kind of just had no expectations. I was like, we're better than them. Yeah, we will batter them, but like we just probably won't win. I just sort of had that feeling.
Pretty much.
I don't know what you guys thought.
Yeah, Ben, go on. What are you thinking before the game, mate?
I was toying with many different results. It was either like 3-1 Palace, and then a second later I'd be thinking, oh yeah, but we'll probably dominate, maybe get a couple goals, and they won't, and it might be 2-0 Brighton. I was just swaying, and then eventually I just gave a score prediction of 2-0 Brighton, which obviously is laughable now. But we did, like I said, we did dominate, and it was just typical. It was just us against Palace. They somehow just get a lucky. Maybe it wasn't luck because it was a big mistake from Sanchez.
It's a big mistake.
He obviously had 1-1 in some sort of bet that he was doing because I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know what he was thinking because it didn't look like he tried to catch it. It looked like he tried to like hit it against the floor to then catch it. He sort of
just flapped it a little bit and then, just sort of.
But it looked so simple.
Yeah.
I'm not a goalkeeper, but that looked like something you do in the training.
The training drill Sanchez go up for those balls, and most of the time he does win them. To be fair, it's one thing he is good at is claiming it. I mean, to be fair, it happened I think at Leicester, wasn't it? Like a couple of years ago, it sort of went through his hands. I think it was Amati.
Oh yeah.
So we've had Amati and Tompkins prosper against Brighton in the most obscure ways. I mean, Adam, what do you sort of make of? Obviously before the game, you're saying this should be a win, but you don't think it's going to be a win. I was pretty much the same. But then once we started playing, it was a bit like, we can't lose, isn't it?
100%. I remember looking at so I wasn't able to get to the game, and I was watching it, and I remember looking at the clock at like 20 minutes and just thinking like, we're all over them. Like this just looks. This is good. This is fine. I remember sort of thinking Solly March is having a great game. Just looking about, thinking this is Alexis McAllister getting into those little pockets. We were just looking completely in control of the game, as we always do. And I thought maybe like they might start brightly, but they didn't. And I think I'm sure we're gonna have a conversation about the disallowed goal and Sanchez later on. But like, I think on another day, like, at the end of the day, De Zerbi said, there was only one team on the pitch. Patrick Vieira was very complimentary at the end of the game, saying that Brighton were basically brilliant. But it's just, that's what happens in these kind of games, isn't it? Like, Palace do what Palace do. I think they're just very resolute.
Does it? Patrick Vieira saying that.
if you look back into the not so distant past when we went to Selhurst Park in 2021, and it was that Mopé moment in the 95th minute. It was a 1-1 draw, and we celebrated it like crazy. I see why the Palace fans are now taking the mick out of us for celebrating that draw, but at the same time,
never.
Yeah, it was totally
draw
different.
ever.
I saw a Palace fan say, "Why'd you let it drop about Sanchez?"
Oh no!
I was like,
so triggered.
Yeah, I was just like, do you know what? Fair.
That could be the podcast title. Actually, I'm so glad you said that because I was struggling for a pod title. Why'd you let it drop? That's so good.
When I think about that game, I think we were actually really poor. I think it was probably one of the worst games we played. We were on a really good run. They probably dominated us in that game, and we snatched the point off them. So it's funny how sort of the world works, isn't it? It comes back and it's the other way around. But I don't know. I think as soon as we started playing, you're right. I think we just dominated them. I think that McAllister was good. Caicedo was fantastic, I thought.
Yeah,
probably
brilliant.
One of his best games for us. Stupinian as well was very good. But weirdly, we didn't really get to see too much of Mitoma, did we? I mean, leaving that on open.
Yeah, the thing. Maybe I wouldn't say Nathaniel Klein had him on lock because that would be quite a sweeping statement. But I think before the match, we were saying how that's a complete mismatch and Mitoma's going to have Nathaniel Klein's pants down for most of the game. But yeah, he was, for some reason, just kind of non-existent in the game. And Solly March ended up being like the better winger, which was quite surprising.
He had a little there was one chance I remember thinking, I think he played a little 1-2 with someone and we managed to slice them open quite easily. He had a nice little shot and it was very Mitoma-esque. Other than that, I don't remember thinking, because most games you watch Mitoma, you just think, oh my days, you are just different gravy. But at least I guess these kind of games happen.
90% of the games, to be honest with you. I mean, the amount of times I even towards the last sort of 10 minutes, we were saying around us, like, Mitoma hasn't done a lot, but you still fancy him to potentially nick something.
Turn it on.
But we had so many chances in that. Do you know what? I might even start from the end and almost work back to the beginning, because I want to just talk about the amount of chances that Alexis McAllister had, because at the end of the game, he looked absolutely heartbroken. I mean, he didn't look like we had just drawn a game. It looked like we had been battered 5-0 and embarrassed by the way Alexis McAllister took it. And I think it's because he knew deep down the amount of chances that he had. I mean, if that was Undab, for example, I think you would be seeing a much different reaction on Twitter and social media particularly. But McAllister, I mean, what's it? I think 3 or 4 big chances that just didn't get taken. When that happened, is that sort of the moment, Adam, where it was like, this just is not going to be our day?
I think so. To be honest, from my perspective, as soon as they equalised, I just thought to myself, it's not going to be our day, because I could just see Palace, like the tide changed a little bit, and they didn't look that good, but the momentum swung a little bit their way.
Their atmosphere picked up a little bit as well, to be fair.
The atmosphere built, exactly. And like, I think on McAllister, you know, I watched Match of the Day this morning, and you know, lots of the shots he was having and that header at the end, it almost looks like he kind of wasn't hitting them with like enough conviction. He wasn't getting like really nice, clean kind of connections on the ball when he was. It kind of felt like, if I kind of looked at him, it felt like he was maybe playing within himself, kind of when he was taking those chances. Like, who am I to really judge that? But I guess it's one of those things that players have off days, and like. Another day, McAllister just would have banged that in the corner, but like, I don't know why he didn't.
It looked like he was just trying to place some of most of the shots, and with a nice finish, rather than just like hitting the ball into the back of the net, which is just strike the ball as hard as you can, and then 9 times out of 10 it's going to go in. Because I think one of them, he just kind of tried to like place it, and it just went straight into Gator's hand,
straight into his hands.
Anywhere else, it's just going to go in. I'm just looking at the stats now, and it's just pissing me off again. I've just annoyed myself by looking at it. 70. Okay, so this is the Premier League app. 74% possession with 7 shots on target and 17 shots in total. We had over double of their touches as well. It was like those stats from like 2020 and 21, where we had like 45 shots and 3 on target, something like that, and they had 3 shots and maybe 2 on target. It's like looking at that. It's pretty much just carried on. But I just hope this isn't going to be the way against Palace every time now. That's
the frustration. Will it ever change? But that we could talk about it a bit. The thing is, we did have the ball in the back of the net thanks to Purvis Stupinian. This is the bit where I could probably lose my head on a podcast for probably the first time since the COVID year. Because honestly, Look, right, for perspective, right, the goal, if it was given, right, there's still a whole game to go, and you know how Palace work, they probably would have scored anyway again, and you know there's no reason to say that would have won us the game. But in hindsight, you know, obviously it's a 1-1 draw. If that goal stands, it's 2-1. So by the letter of that, you know, we should have won the game. I just don't get this. So the PGMOL, yeah, I said that right. If I said that right, they've come out and basically apologised. They got it completely wrong, and it was a human error, by their own words, of putting the line drawn to the wrong defender. It was on, I think, who was actually on? I think it was not on Guehi, it was on someone else.
It was on Anderson. Was it on Anderson? Oh no, yeah, maybe Tompkins, yeah.
I think it was Tompkins instead of Guehi.
Yeah.
And they've given it as offside, but it wasn't offside, and basically admitted that they were wrong. But the same sort of thing happened in Arsenal on the same day, where Brentford scored, but it was offside, and they just forgot to draw the line. What I just want to know, I'm really trying to keep composure here. At what point does someone start really seriously questioning the officials? I'll start with you, Ben.
It's literally their job, is to draw a line. Most lads on a night out on Saturday can draw a better line with something else than them.
They've had 10 points, so they'll still be able to. Yeah, literally.
I don't understand how it's literally their job to put a line, and it's not like they're drawing the line themselves. They just have to like drag it. It's like Photoshop with the rulers coming down. It's like how do you not see that that's the wrong person to put the line on, unless they're. That's a mistake you would make when you're feeling under pressure. But if you're a referee in that moment and you've got all the technology in front of you, there should be no pressure because you've literally got everything in front of you to make the right decision. How do you cock that up? It's nuts.
Adam, and there's like three of them sat in that bloody building in Stockley Park, sat there. Like, how was none of them gone? Oh, actually, mate, I think we might have got the line wrong here. Like, it's just, I think there's a number of things I want to say on this. One, I look on social media after VAR decisions, and like, I never really get too bothered by VAR personally. I always listen to people and see other fans about VAR, and I think, oh, you know, VAR, this, if this had happened, that had happened, we'd have got this point. I just think, oh, whatever. But this, it's just like, I think it's completely unforgivable. It's like, you are literally, that is what you are paid to do. This is the best league in the world. It's not like you've made a call on a penalty that's not quite right, or you've spotted, you've said something was a foul when it wasn't. This is like just textbook. You get flipping lines, you line it up, and it's either onside or it's not. And to draw the line on the wrong player, and I think it's annoying as well because I think afterwards, I think Purvis actually looked genuinely. I looked at his face; he looked like actually quite crestfallen. He looked quite sad about it afterwards, which is like really kind of like not great either. It's just, it's piss poor. It's so bad.
It was a good finish as well, wasn't it? And to have that taken away, like imagine getting your first goal in that big of a game, and whilst we started so strongly.
And it's a game that means so much to the fans. I mean, when that ball hit the back of the net, it was absolute chaos in that away end. Honestly, I've not seen chaos in that away end, in a Brighton away end in ages like that. I mean, it was mental. And to have that taken away with a wrong decision. I mean, look, VAR is there to get the right decision, as we've been told so many stupid times over the last 3-4 years. But at what point do you start thinking, look, I'm so fed up of the same thing where it's like, it's not VAR, it's the officials using it. It might be, and I do agree with you at the same time. But at what point do you start pointing fingers at the fact that this is actually just wrong? I mean, if it's going to be so consistently wrong, then at what point do you just admit defeat with it? I mean, they won't because they've put too much money into it, but it's clearly not fit for purpose, and the officials are clearly not fit for purpose. As you say, Adam, it's the best league in the world.
People doing it.
It's just, I just don't think, if this was in any other job, and if, say for example on Seagulls Social, I came out with a brand new system and I said, look, guys, I think it's going to be a really good idea. We're going to start doing this segment on the podcast, blah, 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 blah. And every single time we did it, or say 6 out of 10 times we did it, it was a complete failure. Like we'd throw it away. Everyone would think about it and look at it and be like, boys, you need to drop this segment. It's rubbish. and we'd be like, no, we'll stick with it every single time. And at what point do you just say, look, there's no point doing this because no one likes it. You know what I mean? So if it was in any other job, I mean, if I came out at any other job and said, sorry, I forgot to draw the line, or I've put it on the wrong guy, I'm getting sacked tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When does it end?
So I've got a friend who used to work in officiating and refereeing and stuff like that. And this is the issue, because the people at the top are never going to really move. In fact, he said it's the politics. You can't imagine how crazy it is. People only get these jobs at the top because of people that they know and worming their way into like being a Premier League referee. So there are so many other unbelievable referees that just give up because they've got no chance of becoming a Mike Dean or a Michael Oliver, because they're just all so cliquey and they don't let anyone else come to the top, even though they're like literally the worst. So it's never really going to get better because the people aren't ever going to hold themselves accountable and leave and put another actual decent referee. It's just, it's all toxic at the top. So it's not going to change really, I don't think.
It's also weird as well because I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I think Neil Swarbrick was the VAR guy, and he's the head of VA bloody R. He's the head of VAR. And he was the bloke doing the lines. It's
God.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just disgraceful.
I didn't even know that.
I think, this league is the best league in the world. You have the best in class of players. You have the best in class of managers. Everything, the broadcast, everything is like the referees. It should be the best in class. And I guess the way you solve it is what happened in the World Cup with the old semi-automated offside. I think you have to take the human element out of the offside. It has to become like automated. You have to be getting the lines automatically done, because you can't rely on people
with the amount
to get
of
it
money
right.
they've got invested in this project, there should be easy, sort of AI or whatever it is that they can do to program that would just make it instant.
Get
like
ChatGPT to do the offside thing.
Yeah, but
I think that'll be the way it goes.
There has to be, because otherwise, as I said, at what point do you just start thinking, what's actually the point? Because look, if we won this game, right, 3-0, and Palace had this situation, as we've always been on this pod and on Twitter or whatever, I've always been very impartial and always said, look, I've always tried to balance it out regardless of whether it's benefited us or not. And look, at the end of the day, right, there's a whole game ahead, as I've said, and that game would not have been determined as such if that goal did stand or not, because as you rightly think, it's a Brighton Palace game. They could have scored from like Robert Sanchez's toenail about 2 minutes later, so you don't know, right? But at the same time, there needs to be, at some point, I've seen that now that the club have accepted the apology and they won't push it any further, which frustrating.
How far can you push it? They're not going to turn around and give us the 3 points, are they? That's the thing.
So this is the question I have for both of you boys.
Or
I'll start with you,
compensation.
Adam. Do you accept their apology?
I personally don't. Well, I don't know. I kind of do, because it is a human error and like you can all make mistakes. I don't, in the sense I just think in a professional organisation, the best in class, you shouldn't be allowing these things to happen. But I understand as well why the club have accepted the apology. I think you would risk a fine or something if you came out and refuted it and said that it was a disgrace, or
probably risk a rematch as well, I'd say. I mean, if you were to come out and say, look, we don't accept your apology, we want to push this further, then Crystal Palace are rightfully going to come out and say, well, if you're going to push it further, then just play the game again, because there's no way to conclusively say that would have won you the game.
Which would never happen as well, that's the thing. And if anything, like, it helped them get back into the games, didn't it? It almost gave them a little bit of a kick up the arse, Palace. I feel like that was almost their best spell, because I remember Webster ended up having to make 2 unbelievable blocks because they went a goal down, and then they were like, shit, let's fucking wake up here, lads. Yeah. And it's just mad. Like, a wrong decision even influenced them to actually play well in the match, which is just something they failed to do for most of it. Yeah,
agreed with you. But to be fair, it's actually a nice segment, to be honest with you, because Adam Webster was colossal that first half, actually, and he was very, very good. He was a little bit of a worry. I like Webster, but he's been so sort of. hit and miss with his injuries recently. You do worry about putting him into a game of this magnitude. But I thought Webster was very good, pretty much won every aerial duel there was to win. And it was nice to see him and Dunk back together, as well as Stupinian playing well. Veltman was good as well. I'd say probably our best sort of players were actually our defenders and midfielders, because the same can't really be said for our attackers. But Adam, was it good to see Adam back?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I personally always feel most comfortable when I see, obviously, Lewis Dunk, but Webster and Veltman in a back four / back three. Particularly Veltman, I think he's a class act, and I think with Adam Webster, it's a shame really, because this time last year? Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm getting my time wrong, but we were talking about England and stuff not too long ago.
Yeah,
and
I think you're right.
Goes on a run of getting injuries, and he's in and out, and he obviously struggles with injuries. But I think he's a brilliant footballer when it comes to bringing the ball out from the back, aerial duels. We forget that he kind of came in when, I was so used to watching Shane Duffy, the bloke I genuinely think I've never seen lose a header before in my life. And, he's come in and just been absolutely quality for us. And yesterday with that block, I think, it showed, he's back to his best. You can rely on him in the big moments. Him and Dunk putting their bodies on the line, as we're so used to seeing. And I think that game yesterday, I think De Zerbi went with the players he trusted the most. I think that's why he probably saw Veltman at right back over someone like Lamptey and maybe Webster back in the back four, despite kind of doubts around illness or injury. But yeah, colossal performance from Adam Webster. And I was actually speaking last night to my brother and my dad about just Lewis Dunk again. Like I've never like banged the drum too hard. I have with my mates, but on social media I've never done it really. But like, it is, the more you think about it, it's actually a joke that he's only played once for England. Like it is just considering like the quality of centre backs that England have.
So low.
Like, that's a different conversation, but he's quality. Yeah. I think everyone was good.
Yeah, agree. And Ben?
I mean, it's just good to see Adam Webster. I think we were so used to seeing a partnership at Brighton as a centre back, and like you said, it was almost like our safety net having Shane Duffy and Lewis Dunk. And then we got used to that with Adam Webster and Lewis Dunk, and it was so nice to see like them two. Any good team has a good centre back pairing, and that's just the way it is. And any successful team anyway,
foundations of your team.
It's what you need. And luckily for us, to be fair, every time we've brought someone else in, they seem to do all right. Which is great to see, and probably can't say that for quite a lot of clubs. But it's great to see Adam Webster back. And I think it was literally this time last year. I think Webster scored a goal against Chelsea. Was it the 1-1 at the Amex? Yeah. Jamie Carragher said he was the best ball playing defender in the league, and then he was getting linked with an in call up for the March international matches.
That was it.
That was brilliant. That was so good, and we just need to get Adam Webster back to that level. But it's just tough every time because he will get injured eventually.
Yeah, I agree. He's a bit like that Lallana, Danny Welbeck situation, isn't he? Really, just class when he plays, but don't get to see it enough. It's frustrating. But moving on anyway, because we do need to move on a little bit. But looking into the second half, because I thought when we went in first half, everyone around me, as I say, we were talking about it was just look. If we can't not win this game, and it's got to come at some point, and it did to a degree for about 6 minutes, where Solly March finally broke through. I mean, to be fair, as you said, Solly was absolutely fantastic yesterday. Probably one of his best games I've ever seen him play for us. I mean, he was right up for it. To see him having that much emotion in him as well when he scored and shushing the Palace fans. I mean, I think he sort of like kicked the corner flag as well. Yeah, it was fantastic to see. I mean, it was a sort of Solly emotion we don't really get to see probably before.
Sorry, imagine having a season ticket in that section, Ryan, because you've had Mopé do that when we were in the
but then we got one idiot of them, Ben.
No, I know, but Mopé with the black kit shushing them with that section, and then Mopé with the Hyperturk shushing him. Now Solly with the Hyperturk shushing him. They get a lot of stick down that corner, don't they? So I carry on there,
definitely. Sorry. Solly was fantastic. As we could probably go on about him probably for another hour, to be honest with you, because he was all over the place, and maybe because Matoma wasn't so involved and they almost doubled up on him, it gave Solly a lot more sort of, oh my God, we forgot about the other guy on the other side. So I think that we sort of saw the best of Solly March yesterday. Cut inside actually had a shot as well, which was very, very close to going in. But the moment of the probably what, 6 minutes was it, where Estupinian crossed it in, Ferguson sort of missed it, I think it was with Ferguson anyway. March smashed it in, back post, great finish as well, I think it was with his right foot for a change. How happy were you to see Solly back on form, particularly in a big game like this, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant. I think a few things, it's interesting that we're seeing Solly March as a winger, like getting into those positions in the box. It's a bit like, I remember people talking about it with Raheem Sterling, about how he began to score more chances under Pep Guardiola. It's about, coming inside, getting yourself in the box, staying wide when the ball's in play, and then when the ball comes into the box, make sure you're getting into the box. And that's what Solly March is doing. He's the example of, I think he is just a confidence player. And Roberto De Zerbi came in, I remember in that first press conference, Roberto De Zerbi made a point of listing Solly March as one of the players that he really likes and is very important. And I think you see that in the way he plays. Brighton look to him now to take on players. They get the ball out to him. Yesterday, I think, like you say about Matoma being double up on. They were getting the ball out to him. They were looking to Solly March to make things happen. And in years gone by, I never backed him to beat a man.
That would be a crazy thing, wouldn't it? Relying on Solly March to be the match winner,
completely. And I've always really liked the bloke, but I always thought he was a little bit one-dimensional. Too left-footed. Never had the confidence to get past the player. But there were times yesterday he looked Matoma-esque. Weaving and diving around players, getting into the box, not making people. Like it was proper. It was proper, and I think fair play to him, because he obviously he's taken the number 7 shirt and he's turned it on. Fair play.
Yeah, that was ballsy. I love my kit numbers, but when he took number 7 shirt in the summer, I was like, something's happening here. He's got to be cooking something.
But he had a great season as well.
Yeah, he did. But you're absolutely spot on, Adam. He's you can tell he's a confidence player. And like you said, like Solly of old wouldn't be trying nutmegs against people and having the confidence to beat people. He would be the guy that would probably play it safe. But that's not me saying that he was a poor player back in the past, because he always did just work so hard, which is why he would be in the team under every manager we've had since he's been at the club. He has never really kind of fell out of love with any managers.
Yeah. And that's actually probably the point, wasn't it? It was always, he was the one who worked hard and he was the one that could be most improved. And we always felt like we were never really truly seeing that proper potential that we should see from Solly. And I think in the Championship, you could see it a little bit more, but you'd still be, when we got to the Premier League, I think we almost thought it's a step too far for him. And, under Chris Hughton particularly, it was starting to look a bit fading away. And then obviously Potter came in, started playing him at left back, and all of a sudden we thought left back was his best position. And then he got injured for such a long time. And then you think, is Solly ever going to come back? But Roberto De Zerbi, as you say, he said, I see this guy as one of the best players in the team, and he certainly made him into it. And as you say, we haven't seen a clinical winger, to be honest, since Knockaert, I'd say. And, that's probably the last time we would have been able to say that. But now we've got 2 in Matoma and March. It's actually quite refreshing, but I don't even know. But yeah, we'll see with Solly for Fulham, because I think that's a whole other conversation, because that's going to be a very, very big game. Hard. But we'll get onto that in a bit. But anyway, Crystal Palace obviously scored not very long afterwards. I mean, it wasn't even like we lost our heads after we scored even. It wasn't like we were just... sometimes you score and a team comes back into it and you sort of take your foot off the gas a little bit. That wasn't even really the case, to be honest. It was a bit of a cheap free kick. And then from the free kick, as we all know, it sort of gets looped into the air from Elise. Sanchez goes up for it, misses it, really, drops it, and there's Tompkins to header it in from about 3 yards out. It was probably one of the most FIFA goals you will ever see. I mean, it was so against the run of play. They literally, I think it was probably one of their first chances of the whole game, to be honest, and it took them that long to have a chance. But to fall to James Tompkins, something about that to me just rubs it in even more. I mean, it's one of those that you just can't even write, isn't it? Ben, I'll start with you, mate. What were you feeling in that moment?
No, the way you said James Tompkins, I completely understand just the way you're saying it. It wasn't like it wasn't one of their better players. James fucking Tompkins scores. It just makes it even harder to take and more embarrassing. It was not like it's fallen to like a good player like Eze or anyone else from Palace, but fucking James Tompkins.
But that's all they had, wasn't it? Just like a crap header. And that was like, do you know what I mean? They didn't.
That was it. That was it. That was it.
But the thing is,
That's all
though,
they did.
Palace fans will be happy about that because they've got one up against us when they've played bad. It's not like they've gone home thinking, "Core Brighton are next level." Maybe they have in their heads, but they'll be happy because they've got the result.
They'll know deep down. They'll know. You'll walk away.
I hope so, Adam.
You'll just think to yourself, "They're better than us," and you won't like
I hope
that
so.
feeling.
But I really wanted this to be the game where we just just really prove that we are completely next level compared to them. I thought that I was really hoping that was going to be the game where we did.
I think that's where the frustration is for me. It's like, it doesn't matter what I say about how well the club's run, how much of a great place we're in, how great De Zerbi's been, how fantastic Tony Bloom's been. At the end of the day, we haven't beaten Crystal Palace in 7 games. And I think if you can't beat your rivals, it becomes frustrating, and rightfully so, because we're football fans, right? I'm not sitting here as a real pundit. I'm sitting here as a Brighton fan who's gone home and away for the last decade, right? So it gets to a point where you think, right, at what point do we just say, look, we need to start winning these games seriously, because otherwise, there's going to be a time where Crystal Palace change and they're going to get better, and that's fine. And I want, if anything, them to get better, and we can have a better, more evenly matched game. Might even be in our favour. But to be honest with you, I just think that's the biggest frustration for me, is that we looked at Potter as he never beat Palace while he was here, and we looked at for De Zerbi and we were saying, look, this is the guy to help us win these games, because he's played in the Serie A and he's managed in the Serie A and he's been in these big moments and he understands it, and I think he actually does, and I still believe that. But it's just frustrating when you lose a potential big win to James Tompkins in that fashion. I mean, Adam, wasn't it just like that typical moment for Brighton and Palace?
It was. I think you make a good point about the Potter De Zerbi thing as well, because whilst I say that, I went into this game never really thinking we'd win it, I did have a lot more confidence in that. I think De Zerbi's made us a much more clinical, well-oiled machine that are ruthless when it comes to beating
like
teams.
You see with Solly, to be fair.
Exactly, like you see with Solly, like we see with beating Bournemouth last week. I think he's turned us into something that we weren't before. So I did go into this game thinking, and I remember, as I said earlier, watching it on 20 minutes thinking, bloody hell, we're doing well here. And I thought we might just coast through the game. There was a part of me that was thinking, on my days, we might actually just batter them here. And I think that is a change that we've seen under De Zerbi, to be fair, and that's really positive. But yeah, it's just annoying. I mean, I'm ready to wound myself up to kind of talk about Sanchez, but I don't know if you guys want to go first and speak about that.
Okay, it's tough, isn't it?
It's tough. I
don't want to slate him. And say that's another mistake. But it's what we got. We got to judge what we've seen, talk about what we've seen, and we have seen a mistake from him in a very, very key match for the club and the fans. And it's not the first time, and this is why it's difficult to say, because I don't want to get on his back, but he's flapped at the ball, and he's done that many times in the past. But unfortunately for him, this was a very, very big game where a mistake like that is so costly. So costly.
I'll start this one because, look, with Sanchez, I saw that the club put on about a photo of him, said sort of like to be a bit more comforted. And I agree with that, because he's still a young goalkeeper. I know that every Brighton fan doesn't want to hear this phrase from any of us, but mistakes will happen, particularly as a goalkeeper and as a young goalkeeper. And I do agree with people. I think it was North Stand Chat or someone like that. We Are Brighton maybe put on saying, if this was a centre forward, you sort of just forgive and forget, particularly if they make a decent, score or goalkeeper makes a decent save afterwards. But it seems like when it's a goalkeeper, you do sort of get that magnifying glass and seem to only notice the bad moments. But I do get the frustration, because I don't agree with the people that are saying, look, we need to drop him, because I think that's just going to do no good whatsoever.
For who?
Yeah, Jason Steele, my lord. But I think, I do understand the frustration, Adam. I can tell you've got a burning head right now, wanting to say something.
It's tough, because for me, it's just I put a tweet out. I'm sure you might have seen, like a couple months ago, maybe a month ago. I basically just criticised him, and I make a point on social media, personally, on Seagulls Social, to never dig out a player. I don't think I've ever done it, and that was probably the closest I've ever come to it. And I thought it was a fair criticism, just saying that, I think it's poor, and I think these unforced errors are happening a bit too often. And I got absolutely battered. I got completely battered in the comments for that. It was like I'd said the most awful thing ever. But fair enough. I completely stand by it. And I completely agree.
Do you remember what mistake it was afterwards?
It was after the. It was at Everton. We were 4-0 up, and he let. It was a bit of a mix up. It was a bit of a mix-up with Estupinian, and it might have been Estupinian's fault, but I think the blame's on. I think Sanchez needed to do a bit better there. And I just tweeted saying, I think it just annoyed me because I thought we were 4-0 up, and it was, anyway, or 3-0. I can't remember. Anyway,
no, it was 4.
And mistakes happen, and he's a young player, but I think he's too casual when he plays. I think he has a manner about him where he just doesn't look arsed a lot of the time. He'll take the ball and he'll knock it out. And often, I see people talking about his distribution being quality. I think I saw in the Bournemouth game, there were a couple of instances where he was like, he just gave the ball straight to the opposition. And fair enough, nothing came from that. But I just think he's too casual sometimes. Even yesterday, after he flapped and let the goal in, fair enough, it's a mistake, whatever. He doesn't look bothered. He stands there like he's on drugs or something. Like
I think I rate that though, that he doesn't look bothered. You've got to look cool. You've got to look cool. But yeah, I do get what you mean. Sometimes there's being cool and looking cool and acting like he doesn't bother you, which is good. But then there's also a time when you're probably too cool and too relaxed, where you will make that kind of mistake. I think that's the fine line with him.
It's that balance of taking responsibility and accountability for what you do. I think, it's easy to say because, he is so big for De Zerbi's system particularly, which is to hold the ball very deep and then wait for those line breakers. And under De Zerbi, he's actually probably more significant than he was when he was under Potter because, to have a goalkeeper that composed is really, really helpful. I think that, to be honest with you, I've actually probably been more impressed with Sanchez since he's been under De Zerbi than when he was under Potter. I agree with that. But naturally, you're going to see more mistakes because of the way we play now, which is very, very, very dodgy at times. But
that
even
at the same time, so that was it.
This is what I was about to say. At this time, there was no pressure. There was nothing on him. There really wasn't. I mean, there was a couple of people went up for a header, but it wasn't really enough to affect him. It was just a drop. And, if you see this with De Gea, and I know that, Roy Keane and stuff, this is your job, man, I think that was one of those moments. That is your job. You've got to catch that ball every time. And it is hard to take in the manner that it happened. I think if he gave the ball away, you might be able to just move on a little bit easier because you'd say, look, it was just a bad pass, and he will admit it and say, look, I can get that out of my head. But I think that will haunt him. I think today, tomorrow, till next week, he'll be thinking about that all week and thinking, yeah, that's my fault. And I think regardless of how cool he plays it, he'll be thinking about that.
And I think, I don't want to sound like I'm being too critical of him. I think he is a very good young goalkeeper, and the fact he's playing in the Premier League and his rise that he made, and the fact that Potter was confident enough to put him in, it shows I think he is an absolutely brilliant shot stopper. I think that's his bag. I think shot stopping is what he does so well. But he just doesn't give me a load of confidence, and I've compared it in my head a little bit to the Neil Maupay situation, where I love Neil Maupay. I still love him now, and I really want him to do well at Everton. I think he will do well under Dyche. I think he's the perfect Dyche player. But I think getting money, 15 million quid for Neil Maupay now looks bloody brilliant. And we've managed to move on from him, and we've got money in the bank. I just wonder whether the club will be thinking, while his stock's really high, if they got a £50 million offer for him, for Spurs looking for a new goalkeeper, Man United looking for a new goalkeeper soon, I'm not saying drop him. I'm absolutely not saying drop him, because who do you bring in? But maybe at the end of the season, if you get big money offered your way, I think they'd be inclined to kind of maybe accept it and see what I was thinking. I think
Mads made that point, didn't he, a few weeks ago, Ryan? I think it was less about selling Sanchez. It was more about giving him competition, because he doesn't have competition.
Yeah.
Jason Steele is obviously brilliant for the club, and I imagine he's a really, really key figure in there in the dressing room. But I was about to say the part-time golfer, but that was only a joke. Okay,
well, yeah,
he's not a part-time. Yeah, kind of is. Loves his golf. Fair play. Who doesn't? But he's not good enough to give him competition. That also adds the element of him being too cool and just he doesn't have anyone competing for him, so he can kind of just be confident and relaxed about his position. And that, I think we do need a backup keeper to give him some competition and give him some fight and think, shit, my place is up for grabs here. instead of just knowing you're going to be playing every single week.
I think that there's definitely and I always say this because I think we put a clip on this of Seagulls Social before when we said about in the summer transfer window of getting a backup goalkeeper. Sorry, in the January transfer window, get a backup goalkeeper. And everyone took it as though we were saying to replace him, which wasn't the case. We were saying, no, look, I don't think there's ever any harm in getting a backup goalkeeper or getting someone to compete for a position. You know, for example, with Solly March, as a prime example, he's absolutely on fire at the moment, but there'd be no harm in buying another right winger who can make him play even better, because that's the worry, isn't it? No matter how good Solly is at the moment, reality says he has not got too much to replace him with unless Sarmiento comes in, but you know, he's not going to start every game as he is. But with Sanchez, I think, you know, with Jason Steele, I love Jason Steele. I think he's a great guy, great for the club, seems like a top bloke. But yeah, he's not realistically going to be starting in the Premier League every week. And you think, if it's not him, then who's it going to be? I mean, I look at Brentford, for example, with David Raya, who's another Spanish goalkeeper. I think he's fantastic. Whenever I see him play, I'm very impressed with him. And probably Sanchez is number 2 to him, at least in my books, for sort of positions as a goalkeeper in Spain. It makes you wonder, I don't know how old David Raya is, but how much of a chance they've given him.
For a goalkeeper.
He's quite young, and they've given him a lot of chances, and they've stuck with him for a long time. And I think at one point even he was going through a bit of a dodgy patch too. So it makes you wonder how long, you know, because you say you take 50 million in the summer, but with the goalkeeper, realistically, he's probably potentially got another 10 to 15 years of playing. You know, at the top level, he could be playing to these 36, 37, because goalkeepers do. You know, that's a long time to, you know, potentially take the cash in a summer transfer window when he's such a big prospect. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, true.
One more last thing on Sanchez quickly. I always see similarities with the young De Gea when he joined United. Lots of mistakes. When De Gea was literally like, he had no muscle in him at all. Fergie sent him on some workout plan and he became really, really good. Over a summer, he just suddenly put on muscle. And you've got to remember, like, Sanchez is a very young keeper. If he was doing this when he was 32 or 30, then there would be question marks. But I think because he's such a young goalkeeper still, I think that's where maybe you've got to cut him a bit more slack. And I would be upset if he went. I can't think of another goalkeeper if we did have to sell him or bring someone else in. I'd rather keep him, to be fair, I think.
I do agree with that. I want to make it clear. Like, I'm not saying sell him or drop him. I'm not saying.
Slate Adam in the comments, guys. He's a hater.
I am not saying that.
I'm joking.
I'm just saying within the context of him being worth a bit. Anyway, blah blah blah. I can't be asked to stay on this, but I do think he can definitely become a good goalkeeper. Definitely. Yeah. And I just think he needs to become a bit more commanding. I think he needs to come and take the ball a bit more. I think when he's got the ball at his feet, he needs to just look a bit more in control sometimes. And if I was a defender, I'd just be looking for a bit more of a commanding nature from him. I think we're lucky that we've got people like Carl Rushworth out on loan at the moment. I imagine there's maybe an opportunity for him to come in at the start of next season, and maybe that could be the number 2 that we could provide competition with Sanchez for. Another really good young goalkeeper who's tearing it up in League One at the moment.
Who is also actually going to make a lot of mistakes when he comes in. I mean, that's also worth noting as well.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah. But that could be the number 2 competition that, I don't know. But
yeah. Don't give hate to Adam, guys, or any of us. This is one thing that Joe Sayers put on yesterday. It was like, anyway, if there's one thing, just be nice to each other. Just don't go and slate each other, because I see a lot of Brighton fans give it to each other on Twitter yesterday. And I put a meme on of like something, and I was just like, I'm staying out of it, because I just sometimes just it gets a little bit much. But anyway, we'll move on because
Ryan, I reckon we Adam needs to leave his hotel soon, so I reckon we just do some sort of conclusion maybe of the match, and then
I was only going to finish it off by saying, because there's a lot of chances. We obviously spoke about McAllister as it was anyway, so we don't need to touch on him too much. But the way I wanted to say it was, at full time, the players look devastated. I mean, you see around the faces, they looked like they had just completely lost a penalty shootout or something. They looked heartbroken, which is really reassuring. I don't think we probably saw that last year. Obviously when we went there and we got this big win, and it was this big draw, should I say? and thought,
no way you just said big win.
Like a secret Palace man. We got that big draw, and then everyone was sort of celebrating like we'd won the game, making T-shirts of "Why'd you let it bounce," which was embarrassing. But This year, everyone's devastated, everyone's heartbroken. And Adam, I don't know if you agree, but that almost shift in mentality of the new and the old, I think it's so much better to see.
It's amazing, and it shows. I mean, I guess the context from last year is that we came back to get a draw, so we were probably much more happy with that. And maybe if that had happened again today, our celebration would have been, we would have been celebrating as well.
Yeah.
But I think it does show where we've moved to. I think we're now a team where we do look a lot more clinical. We look a lot more in control of games. I back us to beat the lower teams a lot more than I would have in the past. And I think it's it's just really exciting. I think it's a shame with the whole Spurs thing yesterday with them, dropping points. That could have been a good opportunity for us to move beyond them. But I think we've got a big one coming up against Fulham. To be honest, I'm worried about that. I think that's going to be a really, really, really tough game.
Yeah, I agree. Are we previewing for Fulham, by the way, Ben?
Yeah, we'll do that. We can do that sometime this week, I think.
Okay, I was going to say we could. Okay, well, I'll just get Adam's opinion on Fulham anyway before you got to head off. Adam, Fulham, big game. Big game, to be honest with you. They're going to be hard. We saw at their place at Craven Cottage not so long ago. It was a tough game. They did beat us. How are you feeling ahead of what is going to be a big defining game in that sort of top 6 spot? I'm really nervous about it, to be honest. I just think I almost fear them because they're kind of one of us as well. I think when we go up against the big teams, I always think we can stick it to them, or the teams down the bottom. I think we have the quality to beat them. But I think they're kind of on par with us, a really dynamic, exciting team. Good attackers, look strong in midfield. I think it's going to be really tough. I think they could come to the Amex and put on a show. To be honest, that's a game I'm kind of really worried about. Yeah, I agree.
I'm just looking at the table now, and it's a bit mad that we're saying about a game that's defining of us getting into Europe and that sort of thing. It's nuts.
Well, and it's against Fulham.
Also,
we talk about top 6 spots.
Yeah, and Fulham as well. Jesus Christ, that's crazy. And we got 2 games in hand, to be fair, and looking at the table, level on points at the moment. Yeah, that is a huge game, though. I think, and then to quickly conclude on Palace, I don't know. It's so good seeing us do well off the pitch and that sort of thing. Really, really impressing everyone. And I'm not calling Crystal Palace a big brother, but it's almost like that bit where you want to prove to your brother or big brother that you're better. Do you know what I mean?
They have been that big
brother,
not being able over all the years.
But but not being able to do that on the pitch, not being able to do it on the pitch is so frustrating when we're doing it everywhere else. But you just want to, you're like, quickly look at me. I'm better than you, but then we never prove it. It's so frustrating.
I remember last season when they were at the Amex, Steve Parish was being interviewed on the side of the pitch of the Amex, and he said something like, and I remember it stuck with me. He said, Brighton have leapfrogged ahead of us in recent years, and we've been trying to catch up with them. And I thought to myself, bloody hell, like you're admitting
Thank
that.
God.
Like that's just nice to hear. But like you say, you want it to translate on the pitch, and it will. It will at some point.
Well, is it March 16th, the reverse fixture now? It got announcing it yesterday.
March 16th. Thursday night, isn't it, right?
Thursday night.
Such a weird time to have a game.
Preparing us for next
Thursday
season.
night at the Amex.
Yeah, exactly.
At least we don't have to wait too long to potentially get revenge for what was such a big steal. But again, it will be a different game, as we know. And when it comes to the Amex, it's different. But we don't seem to do too well against them at the Amex anyway. But I think the last time we beat them there was when Andone scored in that 3-1 win, which was back in 2018. So we haven't had much luck against them in recent times. But I agree with you, Ben. It is like looking at that big brother, because they have been over the years. They've always been above us. They've always finished above us. They're in the Premier League, or we're in the Championship for about 5 or 6 years. So it is like that. In League One, at best of the times, we were sort of competing and always wanting to be like them. And, that's just how it's been over the years. But still, on record, we haven't really. It's still pretty evenly matched. So I am going to be worried for March. But anyway, Adam, mate, you've been an absolute pleasure to have on. I don't know if there's anything that I've missed.
Thank you so much for having me on, guys.
If there's anything else, any players we've missed out on giving praise to, but I don't think there is, to be honest with you.
Caicedo, brilliant, as usual.
Yeah, Caicedo, fantastic, as we know. Adam, mate, thank you very much for coming on. If you want to plug yourself, plug your socials, by all means.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, thank you so much for having me on, guys. Seagulls Central on Twitter. Give us a follow.
Get on it.
Try and get daily content out in terms of video and stuff. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, if you don't follow Seagulls Central, do, because he posts great videos, great analysis, talking about the club. Very quick as well, which is So good to see.
Yeah.
Very reaction,
Cheers,
which is
bro.
nice
Thank you.
to see on the timeline.
Awesome. Cool. Right, guys. Thank you very much. Comments below is the last thing we need to add.
Why'd you let it drop? Are we doing that?
No, because that's against us, isn't it? We need to have something.
Yeah,
It's funny, you got to laugh. You got to laugh at
for
yourself
us.
though. That's how I deal with pain. You got to laugh at
I'm
yourself.
too bitter for it. It could be VAR.
I don't want to look like the Sanchez hater either.
Yeah. Let's go with.
Hmm.
I don't even know. Something about Solly. To be fair, we need to pick up Solly.
SM7.
SM7. Yeah, quote below SM7 if
Yeah.
you made it this far.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening, watching, whatever you've been doing on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, everything like that. Keep streaming, subscribe to us if you are new, and obviously follow all of our socials at Seagulls Social as well. And we'll see you probably just before Fulham when we do a preview, and also a little special guest that we've got as well coming up this week. And excited. We actually need to organise a time with them, Ben, because I've messaged them. They've texted me.
Let's do that.
Anyway,
Let's do that.
cheers, boys, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Peace.
Cheers.